Revealed, the incredible choice of a young boy who chose his mate as MOM over 10 socialites. Ethan Johnson stared at the glossy invitation in his hands, crisp and pristine, a stark contrast to the creeping doubt coiling inside him. His dad wanted him to host the party, the inevitable showcase of status flaunting the glittering world of the elite. It was all about reputation, power, and those carefully curated smiles that never reached their eyes. But what about Rosa? She'd always been there, filling the empty spaces of his heart with warmth, laughter, and a love that money couldn't replicate. His gut twisted with anxiety at the thought of choosing between two worlds, the chosen elite or the one person who truly understood him. In a suburban town varnished to perfection, the sky illuminated in pastel hues, Ethan felt the weight of expectation crushing him. This was his life, crafted by a father whose relentless pursuit of success placed him among the wealthy, a dizzying matrix of parties filled with hollow conversations. He'd seen the way the socialites looked through people rather than at them, their eyes glazed with ambition. It suffocated him. Could he really align himself with their superficial values? As he paced his room, words of the latest social gathering echoed in his mind, the laughter, the clinking glasses, the sweeping compliments. Yet, embedded within was the escalating murmur about Rosa and whispers of her waning importance in the household. It felt like betrayal to hear that framed as a conversation about efficiency. No one cared about the heart of the matter. That small, comforting space she created was fast evaporating. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the air turned tense, a burning question nagged him: what if he chose Rosa? The thought made his heart race with defiance and dread in equal measure. An impulse to protect her bubbled up from deep within. Her kindness had shaped him, made him feel like family. But what would his dad say? Would he ever be allowed back in the gilded circles if he chose a maid over the elite? Then came that night. The whispers of the socialites pierced through the thin walls of his sanctuary. Rosa? Just a maid. Their derisive laughter danced around him, each chuckle striking him. He felt a knot tightening around his chest. Their disdain for someone he cherished felt like a personal attack, a challenge to his sense of belonging. The flashy lives they led suddenly felt unbearable. He didn't want to be defined by their shallow measures. Ethan's thoughts collided like waves crashing against a rocky shore. The truth of his budding attachment to Rosa swelled up inside him, a revelation that twisted painfully in his gut. What if she was more than just a maid? The hidden layers of her history beckoned him to discover more, a past that could intertwine their lives in ways he had never considered. Standing at his threshold, he struggled to catch his breath. The invitation weighed heavy. Would he risk everything for a love that felt true? Or would he succumb to his father's ambitions and the allure of a life he fit into, yet felt alien to him? The moment, teetering on the edge of permanence and possibility, held the power to redefine all he understood about family. He had to decide, and the dread wrapped tightly around him, refusing to let go. Ethan stood in the quiet of his room, wrestling with the chaotic storm of his thoughts. With each beat of his heart, the notion of choosing Rosa, the woman who had been more of a mother to him than the one he barely knew, pressed heavier on him than that glossy invitation. The voices of the elite reverberated in his mind, competing with images of Rosa tending to his scraped knees and the stories she told to ease his fears of the dark. Each memory felt like a lifeline, yanking him back from the edge of the chasm the party represented. He broke from his reverie, shifting focus to the darkened room around him. The walls felt closer now, each object a reminder of a life fabricated around status. His father's ambitions dripped like quicksilver, filling every crevice of his existence, ambition that left no space for emotion, for authenticity. He suddenly envisioned the party, the laughter wrapped in artifice, the surfaces polished to reflect affluence rather than connection. The thought of spending his night amidst endless small talk felt suffocating, every smile worn with crafted intent. Determined not to yield to the suffocating expectations, Ethan darted down the hall toward the kitchen. The warm aroma of the evening meal lingered in the air, blending seamlessly with the nostalgia that came with Rosa's presence. As he entered, the sight of her, kneeling to inspect the herbs in her indoor garden, pulled him closer. "Hey, Rosa," he ventured, trying to steady his voice. She turned, her eyes lighting up with recognition.
"Ethan. Would you care to help me with dinner tonight?"
Her voice was rich and warm, an invitation that felt effortless, unmarred by the complexities that surrounded him, but before he could respond, the heaviness in his stomach returned. The juxtaposition of Rosa's genuine kindness against the chilling ambitions of the socialites he was expected to impress was too stark. He hesitated, grappling with the imminent choice pressing on him.
Would he rather invest in this authentic moment with Rosa or abandon it all to dazzle those who would see him as nothing more than a pawn in their elaborate games?
"Listen, Rosa," he began, steeling himself for the vulnerable confession.
"What would you think if I didn't throw this party?"
Her brow furrowed with surprise, but it melted into a look of understanding.
"Ethan, you need to make your own choices. This is your life."
Her words were simple yet struck him deeply, sending ripples through his consciousness.
What did he value? What truly mattered?
The clarity sliced through the confusion clouding his mind, revealing a path, one that possibly led to the acceptance of who he genuinely was. He moved closer, gathering courage.
"What if I chose you? What if I chose this over that?"
Rosa's eyes met his, seeming to illuminate a different yet comforting space within his turmoil. "It's not an easy decision, but those who care for you will understand." He pondered her words. Perhaps there was strength in forming bonds beyond the material, beyond the eager applause of the entitled. The knot in his chest loosened minutely, the realization washed over him that this was not merely an act of rebellion but an expression of his true self, a self molded by authenticity rather than facade. "Tomorrow, I'll talk to my dad," he decided, the determination now solidifying within him. It was time to redefine his boundaries and confront expectations. He felt emboldened, but beneath it all, tremors of uncertainty still lingered. What would his father's reaction be when he discovered that his son was willing to forfeit a life of privilege for one steeped in meaning? With resolve rolling within him like thunder, Ethan realized he had to prepare himself for the upcoming confrontation, the clash that would not only test his personal resolve but also redefine who he would become in this fragmented world of loyalty and ambition. But as he descended the stairs, a flicker of doubt broke through, igniting a new question: did he have what it took to forge his own path, even if it meant facing the wrath of those he once sought to impress? The moment of truth was looming closer, and the stakes had never felt higher. Ethan awoke the next morning with a sense of urgency simmering beneath his skin. The sunlight streamed through his window, bathing the room in warmth, yet a chill lingered as he contemplated the conversation that lay ahead. He rolled out of bed, heart pounding like a drum signaling the start of an unwelcome battleground. He moved through his routines mechanically, teeth brushed, showered, dressed, but his mind was a whirlwind of possibilities. What would he say? How would his father react? Each thought twisted in knots deeper than before. The difference between the life he had lived and the life he aspired to led him into a confrontation with his own identity. As he approached the breakfast table, the smell of sizzling bacon filled the air, clashing sharply with the tension coiling in his stomach. His father sat at the head of the table, newspaper in front of him, glasses perched on his nose, apparently engrossed in the world outside their bubble. The typical morning chatter played out in the background, but Ethan felt isolated within that perfect facade. "Morning, son," his father greeted without looking up. The casualness of his tone contrasted harshly with the heaviness that filled the space between them.
"Dad, I need to talk to you about something."
Ethan's voice came out steadier than he had anticipated, though the tremors beneath his surface were unmistakable. His father glanced up, irritation flickering in his eyes.
"Can it wait?" "I'm busy with actually, no."
"It can't," Ethan interrupted, the gravity of his words surprising even himself.
"It's about the party."
His father's expression shifted, brow furrowing.
"What about it?"
The disinterest in his voice now felt palpable.
"I'm not going to throw it."
Ethan caught his breath, the admission crystallizing around him like thin ice waiting to crack.
"What do you mean? You can't be serious."
The newspaper lowered, revealing a man whose world revolved around social standing and networking.
Ethan's determination teetered on the precipice of uncertainty. "I'm serious. I don't want to play that game anymore. I've been thinking I want to choose a different path." one that's not dictated by expectations and status. Each word tumbled out, his voice gaining strength with conviction, yet he sensed the weight of those words on his father's shoulders. Are you out of your mind? Do you even understand what you're saying? His father's voice rose, the facade of calm cracking. This isn't just about you, Ethan. This is about appearances, our reputation. You're letting these emotional distractions with your maid get into your head. The accusation struck like a slap, halting Ethan in his tracks momentarily. Rosa wasn't just a maid, she was the embodiment of genuine support and nurturing that had been absent in his life. He grappled with the urge to retaliate but steadied himself, forcing breath into his lungs. I'm not letting anything cloud my judgment. I'm choosing what's real and meaningful to me. Rosa has shown me what it means to care for people, without conditions. The words flowed freely now, fueled by the need to stand firm against the rushing tide of his father's disdain. For a moment, silence enveloped them, thick and heavy. Ethan watched as the clouds of indignation darkened his father's features, and in that moment, a flicker of vulnerability crossed his face in acknowledgement that maybe, just maybe, he had never understood what true connection meant. His heart raced as the tension heightened, the familial bond imposing itself like steel bars around them. You think you can just disown everything we've built for something so trivial? You have the potential for greatness, Ethan, his father argued, desperation creeping into his tone as rational thought slipped away. Greatness is more than just wealth and social grace, Ethan shot back, emboldened. It's about being true to who you are and who cares for you. As his father opened his mouth to respond, the doorbell rang, shattering the heavy weight of their confrontation. Ethan felt the icy grip of fear meld with a newfound strength. The stakes unfolded. Before him, like a road branching in countless directions, each bearing consequences he could not foresee, dread pulled deep within him, but a flicker of hope ignited as his thoughts turned to Rosa. Would she understand his decision? Could he muster the courage to share this world with her, a world molded by authenticity rather than expectation? Steeling himself, he resolved to confront not just his father's ambitions but also the intricate dynamics of their interwoven lives. As he moved past his father, a revival surged through him, truth, honor, and the kind of love that defied social stratification. But as the thought of greeting whoever was at the door spurred him forward, a chilling question lingered: could he truly dismantle the barriers of privilege and reclaim his identity amidst the chaos? Ethan paused, his hand poised over the doorknob, heart racing as the gravity of his situation momentarily clouded his mind. The confrontation with his father still loomed heavy, yet the arrival of an unknown visitor stirred a blend of apprehension and curiosity within him. He took a deep breath and opened the door. Standing there was Rosa, her presence a comforting balm amidst the thunderstorms grating at his soul. As she smiled, a genuine warmth illuminating her face, Ethan felt something shift within him, a reminder of the support she had always offered him. She was here, despite the complexities of their worlds colliding. "Good morning, Ethan," she said, her voice soft and inviting, a stark contrast to the tension radiating from within the house. "I brought you some fresh pastries. Figured you might need a pick-me-up." A flicker of gratitude surged through him. He gestured for her to enter, attempting to balance the weight of his developing convictions with the comfort of their casual exchange. "Thank you, Rosa. Just what I needed." As they settled in the kitchen, Ethan couldn't quite shake the knot of uncertainty. Should he reveal the truth of his changing path? Could he risk their relationship, tainted by the societal standards that weighed so heavily in his life? Rosa began to speak of her morning, recounting her small adventures in the local market, but Ethan's mind was elsewhere, wrestling with his own fears and ambitions. "Ethan?" she said, breaking the silence that had engulfed him. "You seem preoccupied." He looked up, meeting her steady gaze. The concern in her eyes was genuine. Before he could stall, the words poured out. "I had a fight with my father. I told him I won throw that party. I want something different, something more meaningful." As he spoke, Rosa's expression shifted from surprise to understanding. "And how do you feel about that?" Ethan hesitated, picking through his thoughts as if they were scattered leaves caught in a breeze. "I'm terrified, honestly. He doesn't understand me. He sees only the family name, the status. It feels like I'm suffocating under the weight of expectations." Rosa nodded, her expression thoughtful. It's brave to want something different, Ethan. But you must remember that bravery can sometimes feel like loneliness. The truth of her words hung like a tangible force between them. Attention gave way to a spark of internal realization within Ethan. He was indeed pursuing this journey alone, yet the possibility of his singular pursuit didn't negate the strength of their connection. Do you think I'm making a mistake? He asked, vulnerability creeping into his voice. No, she replied firmly. Choosing integrity over appearances is the most courageous decision you can make. Sometimes the right path isn't the one everyone agrees with, but it's the one that leads you to completeness. Ethan absorbed her encouragement, feeling the urge to fully embrace her wisdom. Perhaps the support he had felt from her in those small moments was the foundation he needed. It was as if Rosa had unknowingly become a mentor, her knowledge and experience guiding him through the maze of his discontent. As they continued talking, he slowly began to articulate his dreams, hints of opening a community art space, crafting a platform for authentic expression devoid of social boundaries. With each word, the conviction within him solidified, transforming trepidation into fervor. But realization struck him, heavy and ominous. Would engaging with the world in this way fracture the remnants of his previous life? The fear gripped him once more. As the morning faded, so too did the clarity he had just embraced. Ethan? Rosa's voice anchored him back to the moment. What are you thinking? He opened his mouth to respond but halted again, the weight of the new direction inspiring both excitement and dread. I guess I need to confront my father again. This time with a real plan. I can't back down now. A silence filled the space as Ethan contemplated what this confrontation could entail. The butterflies in his stomach metamorphosed into a daring resolve. This time, he would stand firm, allowing no one to dictate who he was meant to be. But as the doorbell rang again, a sense of foreboding surfaced. Who could it be this time? With every visitor, the world he was trying to reshape seemed to inch forward, or perhaps encroach on him instead. Could he face the tide of societal expectations once more, even as a renewed individual ready to shift the narrative? He inhaled deeply, ready to face whatever waited on the other side of the threshold, knowing that his journey had only just begun. Ethan opened the door, steeling himself for whatever awaited him beyond. His resolve wavered momentarily as he faced the unexpected visitor, a tall man dressed sharply in a suit. The man's posture radiated authority, it was virtually a command in itself. Ethan recognized him immediately, an associate of his father's. The exquisite watch glinting on the man's wrist seemed to be an extension of the privilege he embodied. Ethan, the man said, voice smooth and even, devoid of warmth. Your father needs to speak with you. He is quite concerned about your choice regarding the party. The implication was clear. His father had dispatched him like a messenger to rein in Ethan's defiance. Gritting his teeth, Ethan felt his stomach churn with a mix of anger and realization. This was the first time he had to navigate such a direct challenge to his burgeoning independence. Tell him I'm not interested, Ethan replied, his words sharper than intended. The man raised his eyebrows slightly, surprised by Ethan's defiance. Ethan, you know how he feels about this. It's not just a party, it's an important opportunity for your family's standing in the community. He stepped forward, lowering his voice conspiratorially. You must understand, your father has invested a lot in your future. He expects you to show up and fulfill your obligations. An internal battle raged within Ethan. It was as if the walls were closing in, echoing his father's expectations louder with each breath. But he felt something else too, an unwavering desire to break free. Maybe my future isn't tied to someone else's expectations, he countered, though his voice trembled. The man's expression shifted, now reflecting annoyance. This isn't just about you, Ethan. You have responsibilities. If not for yourself, then think about the repercussions for the family. Ethan felt the weight of those words like the shackles they were intended to be. Yet, at that moment, the image of Rosa surfaced in his mind, her unwavering support inspiring a flicker of determination within him. He wasn't entirely alone in this struggle, the choices he made could define not just his life, but those around him too.
"I've made my decision," he declared, surprising even himself with the conviction in his tone. "If my father can't accept that I want a different life, then that is something we'll have to discuss face to face." The man glared, weighing the determination in Ethan's eyes. "Very well. But remember this, your aversion to tradition may come at a cost." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving a palpable silence in his wake. Once alone, Ethan felt the rush of adrenaline coursing through his body. His vision crystallized, the uncertainty that once clouded his thoughts starting to dissipate. He could envision the pure space he wanted to create, a sanctuary for open-mindedness and creativity. It was an exhilarating prospect. But the ramifications loomed. How to actually confront his father? Ethan took a moment to collect himself, acknowledging the enormity of the moment. He had voiced his wishes, but now came the phase of putting his plan into action. What would that confrontation even look like? He needed to approach it with substance, armed with a clear vision that transcended the societal vocalizations that had shadowed him. As he prepared to put thoughts into strategy, he felt a sharp pang of fear. The notion of stability, the known path paved for him by his father, was heavy on his chest. But beneath that was another feeling: excitement. The chance to carve his own identity, something he had longed for but never thought possible, was within reach. Then, a quick knock jolted him from his reverie, yanking his focus back to the present moment. His mind racing with possibilities and doubts about what lay before him, Ethan opened the door again, revealing not just another visitor, but a critical moment that could change everything. Before he could process the scene unfolding, a barrage of questions flooded his mind. Was this yet another figure from his father's realm, intent on derailing his ambitions, or a necessary catalyst propelling him toward the clarity he craved? What now? Ethan thought, a whirl of emotions stirring within him. Each decision echoed louder than before as he stepped forward, ready to find out. Ethan's jaw tightened as he opened the door fully, revealing the unexpected guest. It was Rosa, her green eyes glistening with concern that shifted to determination as she saw him. In that moment, the chaos in Ethan's mind softened. Here was someone who understood him, who could perhaps help him navigate the turmoil surrounding his impending confrontation with his father. "Hey," she greeted softly, stepping into the room. "I heard about that man. I know it must be felt overwhelming." "Overwhelming doesn't begin to cover it," he replied, leaning against the doorframe, trying to regain some semblance of control. "It's like an avalanche of expectations just landed on me." Rosa crossed her arms, her posture reflecting a mix of empathy and resolve. "You've got to confront him. It's the only way to figure out what you truly want. What if I mess it up?" Ethan felt the familiar weight of self-doubt creeping back in, a faint hint of fear punctuating his resolve. Every confrontation is a risk, Ethan, but isn't that part of growing? You can't chase your vision while shackled to someone else's expectations. It won't be easy, but sometimes you have to walk through the fire to find out who you really are. Ethan studied her, a rush of gratitude welling up inside him. Rosa's words struck a chord, a reminder that he wasn't alone in his struggle. What if he fights back? What if he tries to guilt me into compliance? She took a step closer, her tone steadfast. What matters most is how you respond. You need to articulate your new vision, how it aligns with who you are and what you want in life. Don't let others define your path. A flicker of insight ignited within him. As he envisioned his father's reaction, he pictured the glint of disappointment in his eyes. It was daunting, but deep inside, the prospect of being heard overwhelmed the fear of his father's rebuke. "Rosa, with you here, I feel stronger," he admitted, the words tumbling out before he could consider their weight. "Good. But remember, it has to come from you. You have to believe in your vision first." Ethan's mind raced, starting to shape the arguments he would present. "I have to be open about why I want to break from tradition," he murmured, more to himself than to her. "To highlight how suffocating this life feels." She nodded, her expression encouraging. "Yes. Frame it all in terms of your aspirations, not merely personal rebellion. It will resonate more." The mental shift was exhilarating. The clarity of purpose began crystallizing. He was no longer just Ethan, a son tethered to his father's ambitions. He could be an architect of his destiny.
Okay, I think I can do this. I need to set the time for the confrontation. He has already had the chance to send his emissary, Ethan said, determination fortifying his voice. There is one more thing, Rosa interjected. You have to show him you've thought it through. People respect thoroughness, especially someone like your father. So, make a list of points you want to make. As she spoke, Ethan felt a series of emotions swirl within him. This wasn't merely about rebellion, it was about ownership, self-definition, and the power to forge his identity unfettered by legacy. I'll prepare, he said firmly. He won see this coming. Rosa smiled, her expression a mixture of pride and encouragement. After you meet with him, I want to hear how it went. Just remember to stay true to yourself. Whatever he throws your way, don't lose sight of the vision we talked about. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling lighter despite the gravity of what lay ahead. It was time to connect with the core of his ambition. The unknown was no longer daunting, it felt like the next step toward becoming the individual he yearned to be. As he rattled off ideas and strategies, a realization struck him hard. What if succeeding meant not just confronting his father, but also drawing a line in the sand that defined him entirely? The thought settled in his gut like a weighty truth, and he smiled at Rosa. I think I have a plan. This is going to require everything I've got, but the potential is more exciting than I imagined. Rosa's smile widened. Then let us do it. But you'll have to face him soon. The longer you wait, the heavier the fog becomes. Absolutely, but first I need to think more about the details. If I can anticipate his challenge, I can feel more prepared, Ethan said, his heart racing with purpose. As they discussed specifics, the reality of the impending confrontation became more tangible. Whatever lay ahead, Ethan felt ready to break the chains of expectation, one courageous word at a time. But as he crafted his arguments and visualized the confrontation, another thought lingered. What would he do if his father retaliated beyond mere disappointment? Would his resolve hold? Now, nothing felt fully secured, and the tension wrapped around him again, darker and more insistent than before. Ethan's day unfolded with the drumming rhythm of uncertainty as he sat at his desk, surrounded by a cacophony of notes, charts, and lists. Each piece of paper bore a fragment of his thoughts, a collection of dreams muddied by familial expectations. By dawn, he had meticulously crafted a plan, an outline of meticulously structured points he intended to convey during the impending confrontation. Yet, as he stared at the jumble of words, the persistent doubt crept back, echoing in the silence of his room. What if it wasn't enough? He rubbed the bridge of his nose, sighing deeply. Amidst the chaos of his mind, it was clear he wasn't just preparing to challenge his father but was on the brink of unveiling who he truly was. Each phrase he composed resonated with a newfound intensity, like an artist waiting for the final stroke on a masterpiece. With every note came the realization that this was not merely a battle for autonomy but an assertion of his identity. Rosa's earlier encouragement reverberated in his thoughts, they were fuel to this growing fire within him. Confrontation was not an end but a beginning, opening doors to self-discovery, an exploration into aspirations he had previously concealed. He pictured her eyes, alight with belief in his potential, and it ignited something deep inside. He began to draft an emotive introduction, one that set the stage for his father's rejection of tradition. As the hours passed, the atmosphere shifted. Shadows of doubts flitted in and out, their whispers symptomatic of years of conditioning. Memories flooded him, his father's proud declarations echoing in his mind, moments of dismissal when Ethan's ambitions flickered like a candle in the wind. Yet, those very memories formed the backdrop of his resolve. Pain and resistance blended into a potent elixir for determination. Ethan had not just plotted his strategy, he had grounded it in a reality he could no longer ignore. He imbued each point with clarity and conviction, shaping arguments that hinged not just on personal discontent, but genuine motivation and future aspirations. He would not go into battle ill-prepared, he intended to dismantle the hierarchy of expectation with intelligent grace, but another realization gripped him, a visceral obsession. Though he structured his arguments meticulously, was he prepared for an emotional war? What if his father lashed out with disdain or venom? The thought made his stomach churn. While he had envisioned articulating his desires, the prospect of personal attack loomed large. As he paced the small confines of his room, determination and anxiety wrestled within him. The stakes were high.
It was critical for him to remain grounded in his vision while ready to counter accusations or guilt trips. He needed to practice how to respond calmly, strategically, and without faltering. Pulling out his phone, he started recording himself, articulating his points aloud, conjuring images of his father's face in response. Each rehearsal unveiled hidden layers of fear and strength, and as he spoke, he could feel his voice growing stronger and more assertive with every attempt. It was as if each word polished the edges of his uncertainty, turning it into polished confidence. However, the fear became palpable once more. What if all of this work crumbled at the first sign of backlash? What if nothing had changed, and he remained the same, vulnerable son in his father's eyes? With a firm set to his jaw, Ethan ended the recording session, hoping to solidify his resolve. This reckoning was not merely about his father or the confrontation, it was a transformative step toward honoring his own voice. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Ethan felt a shift in his core. The time had come. There was no going back. He was about to confront a man who represented everything that had confined him. Suddenly, his phone buzzed a text from Rosa. "Are you ready for this? It's not just about the confrontation. It's about who you become afterward. Remember to focus on that." Her words ignited a flicker of hope within him, even as the darkness loomed. He took a breath, understanding that the true test lay not in simply standing against his father, but in the man he would craft from that moment on. But as the phone buzzed again with another message from Rosa, a lingering dread sank in. What if the response he faced shattered the fragile facade he had so carefully built? What would he do if it unraveled completely? Ethan stood at the threshold of his father's office, a battleground layered in tension, with every heartbeat echoing a war cry against a lifetime of expectations. He took a moment to gather himself, the plan he had crafted pulsing in his mind like a mantra, clashing with the fear of disappointment. The room was unfathomably still, yet it felt as if he stood before a tempest ready to unleash. He turned to his reflection in the glass door, his brow furrowed, expression solemn, a stark reminder of the weight he carried. It was not merely an inheritance of ambition but a legacy steeped in tradition that he now sought to challenge. The hours of preparation fought valiantly against his overwhelmingly familiar sense of inadequacy. What if his father brushed him off as he had so many times before? With a breath that felt as heavy as a stone, he stepped inside, the air thick with aromas of rich mahogany and old leather, silencing all remaining doubts. His father, Marcus, sat at the expansive desk covered in papers that told stories of wealth and status. He looked up, the lines around his eyes deepening, as if bracing himself for an unwelcome storm. "Ethan," Marcus intoned, his voice a blend of authority and weariness. "What brings you here?" Gathering the courage that felt both fragile and mighty, Ethan met his father's piercing gaze. "I need to talk to you about my future." His voice bore the quaver of uncertainty but clenched with resolve. "Your future? I hope this isn't another one of your whims." Ethan's stomach dropped. Whim's just another dismissed aspiration. It was time to peel back the layers of expectation. "It's not a whim. I don't want to follow the path you laid out for me." Pushing forward through old fears, he recalled the countless hours spent rehearsing every point. "I want to pursue art. I want to go to the School of Visual Arts in New York City. It's what I love." Silence loomed larger than the desk between them. Marcus's expression shifted from surprise to skepticism. "Art? That's impractical. Do you truly believe you can make a living from that?" The dismissive question detonated in his chest. Everything he had rehearsed slipped away, replaced by raw emotion. "You never even asked if I loved painting. You assume because it isn't business, it's worthless." Ethan's sudden surge of passion was like a spark to dry tinder. In that instance, he no longer felt like the delicate son yearning for approval, but a man who dared to stake his claim. Yet even as he spoke, shadows of self-doubt crept in. Was he fighting for his truth or merely against failure? Marcus's face hardened, anger pooling in his eyes. "Do not speak to me about worth. I worked hard for everything we have. You want a life of struggle?" The accusation shot through him like an electric current. "Struggle? Or is it about your plans?" Ethan took a breath, angling closer in defiance. "I want to carve out my path, not walk down yours with a mask held high." My worth is not in dollars or titles but in following my dreams. For a heartbeat, the tension crackled, a brief fragile silence enveloping them. Ethan felt the ground beneath him shift. He was no longer just a boy challenging his father but a young man adamant about his voice. Yet a lurking fear gripped him further. What if this confrontation opened doors to a path he could walk alone, but also led to estrangement? The flicker of hesitation in Marcus's eyes told him nothing was assured. Yet Ethan understood now, he was building himself up from this moment, regardless of the outcome. Whatever response awaited would not dictate the man he would become. He was ready to embrace whatever lay beyond. Just as the silence deepened, with uncertainty wrapping around them both, his father leaned back, contemplating. The moment felt suspended, pregnant with possibilities. Ethan clenched his fists, anxiety morphing into anticipation. What would his father decide? Would this mark the beginning of understanding or the fracture of family bonds? And as that pivotal moment loomed, Ethan was left wondering if this confrontation unfurled his truth. What armor would he need to face the world outside? The tense silence between Ethan and Marcus hung in the air like an unspoken ultimatum, begging for resolution. Marcus's gaze shifted to the window, and the dim light slanted across his furrowed brow. Ethan seized the moment, scrambling to find the right words, grasping at the remnants of his conviction. I know this is not what you envisioned for me, Dad. But I also deserve the chance to pursue a life that fuels my passion. It shouldn't just be about following paths laid out by generations before. Marcus finally turned back, and his eyes narrowed. Passion doesn't pay bills, Ethan. You need stability. You can't chase dreams and expect them to sustain you. Why can't it be both? Ethan pressed, emboldened. What if I create something real, something that resonates with others? Isn't that worth just as much? The air in the room thickened. For a moment, Marcus's eyes softened, revealing the burden of his own dreams unrealized. Yet the mantle of paternal authority reignited, and he leaned forward. What do you plan to do? Live off scraps while you wait for some stroke of genius? Isn't a safety net? Maybe it's the net I need, Ethan challenged, surprising even himself with his boldness. To catch my dreams and make them tangible. With this admission, he glimpsed the power of his own desires, a forming conviction that pulled him from the shadows of self-doubt. He realized he was more than just a son seeking approval, he was an artist fighting for his future. How different was that from the sacrifices his father had made for success? Marcus regarded him with a mixture of conflict and a genuinely unsettled countenance, his breathing quickened. If you go down this road, don't expect my support, he declared, projecting authority laced with trepidation. I won't fund what I see as a foolish whim. This is the real world. Ethan's stomach twisted at the threat lingering in his father's words. He had been prepared for this moment to some degree, but standing at the edge of that final ultimatum forced a rush of doubt through him. Was he willing to let go of familial support for the chance to follow his heart? But as his breath steadied, he felt something else, an unexpected clarity. I would rather face uncertainty than live confining myself to expectations that aren't my own, he stated, his voice steadier, firmer. If it means going on my own, then I'll own that choice. This is my life, Dad. Marcus recoiled slightly, the raw vulnerability of the exchange hanging uncomfortably. The tension crackled with possibilities, the flicker of something almost tangible between them. It wasn't merely a father and son at odds, it was a moment defined by generational expectations clashing with individual truths. I hope you know what you're risking, his father cautioned, the hardness in his voice now softened by a hint of fear. This isn't just about you. It's South your place in our family legacy. I'm still part of that legacy, but I want to forge my own, Ethan asserted, his heart racing with conviction. That doesn't erase who I am, it adds to it. The silence draped back over them as Marcus's gaze fell once again, lost in thought. The weight of family loyalty pressed upon both men. For Ethan, the fear of estrangement clashed against a burgeoning self-identity. What would his decision mean for their relationship moving forward? And just as he thought he might have reached an understanding with his father, Marcus shifted the narrative once more. You need to understand. The business world is cutthroat. If you choose this, then you embrace the struggle. Ethan leaned in, adrenaline surging through him.
Then let me face it. I'll face the struggle head-on, feeling every moment of it, rather than live a hollow version of the man you want me to be.
Marcus's expression froze, caught in a moment of realization and maybe regret. Ethan felt a thrill run down his spine, emboldened by the weight of his words.
Yet the specter of uncertainty loomed larger than ever. The exchange had turned the pages of their lives in ways neither could predict. As he turned to leave the office, the enormity of his choice washed over him. It was singularly terrifying and liberating.
He could no longer tiptoe around his own identity. A new path lay before him, one fraught with struggle and possibility, but cemented by a determined sense of self. Yet as he stepped away from the threshold of everything he had known, another question arose in his heart. What would truly manifest from the price of this freedom, and could he step into the world unaccompanied, armed with nothing but his conviction? Ethan stepped into a newfound reality, the air thick with uncharted potential after his confrontation with Marcus. There was an exhilarating weightlessness that accompanied the decision he'd made. He had not only voiced his commitment to his true passion but had also severed the chains of expectation that had shackled him for far too long. As days turned into weeks, the transformative journey brought clarity and purpose to every corner of his life. He fully committed to his art, dedicating hours to developing a portfolio that showcased his originality, a kaleidoscope of emotions reflecting the duality of his experience. The more he painted, the more he felt himself solidifying into an authentic identity, free from the definitions others had imposed upon him. Each artwork became a declaration of independence, a representation of the dreams that once felt so distant. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow in his small studio, Ethan paused to admire a piece he had just finished. It was a self-portrait, not only revealing his features but also laced with vibrant colors that symbolized the tumultuous journey he had undertaken. Dedication and self-discovery had merged on the canvas under his brush, showcasing the evolution of his spirit. He allowed himself a moment of pride, a tangible confirmation of the courage it had taken to embrace this change. Amidst this personal renaissance, he felt a familiar warmth flood his heart as Rosa entered the studio, bringing with her the comforting scent of freshly brewed tea. "You've certainly transformed this space," she remarked, her eyes glinting with admiration as they danced over the vibrant colors splashed across the walls. Her presence anchored him in a way that grounded the whirlwind of creativity around them.
"Thanks, Rosa.
It feels alive now, much like the growth I've experienced," he replied, carefully considering each word. "I've spent days just painting, expressing thoughts I didn't even know I had."
"Art has a way of uncovering layers in us, doesn't it?"
she acknowledged gently.
"I've seen you blossom, your work reflects it."
Her words wrapped around him like a reassuring blanket, fortifying him against the lingering echoes of his father's expectations. He leaned against the easel, a newfound resolve shining in his gaze. "You standing by me during this has made it all the more meaningful. I realized I can build my future on something authentic, something I truly care about, not just what was handed down to me."
Rosa pondered for a moment, her expression turning contemplative. "Do you think your father understands that?"
Ethan's heart tugged at the thought. The deep-seated fears of rejection still haunted him, uncertainty reminding him that confronting his father had cost more than he initially realized. "I believe he is trying, but that understanding may take time. I just have to remain true to this vision." In that instant, a realization struck him: the threads binding him to the past were frayed but not fully severed. If he ever wished to cultivate a relationship with his father again, it would require patience and an unwavering commitment to authenticity, a bridge to cross when the time felt right. And so, he began reaching beyond his art, applying to the School of Visual Arts with unwavering conviction. Every submission felt like an affirmation of his dedication, a step toward the future he'd chosen for himself. As acceptance letters arrived, one particularly memorable one ignited a fire within him. He was accepted, and the excitement surged through his veins like electricity. This moment was concrete proof of his hard work. He had conquered the greatest obstacle, his self-doubt.
"I got in. I can't believe it,"
he shouted, pure exhilaration bubbling up as he revealed the news to Rosa.
"Oh Ethan, this is amazing."
Her joyous embrace solidified the significance of this success. It was not merely acceptance into a prestigious institution, it was the validation of his journey, a representation of everything he had fought for.
Realizing this newfound chapter in his life.
Called for celebration, he invited Rosa to join him in transforming a corner of his studio for an informal art showcase, a tribute to their revolving relationship, mentorship, and shared dreams. As friends and family gathered, the room thrummed with laughter and connection, the air electrified with encouragement and admiration as they perused his works. In that space, amidst the vibrant colors and shared smiles, Ethan felt the exquisite culmination of his transformation. He hadn't merely found a path away from his father's shadow, he had embraced the brilliance of his own light. The excitement of possibility permeated every art piece displayed, echoing the individual growth he had achieved. As he stood side by side with Rosa, he sensed the bond they shared strengthen through mutual respect and understanding. "This is just the beginning," he murmured, glancing at her through a lens of immense gratitude.
"Absolutely," she grinned. "And I have no doubt you'll continue creating and inspiring."
The partnership had become a steady foundation for Ethan's journey, enabling him to confront his fears and overcome immense personal challenges. Ethan now stood poised at the precipice of his future, reveling in a liberated sense of self, shaped through art and resilience. He recognized that every layer of insecurity had been woven into the fabric of his artistic journey, making him not just a survivor of his father's world but a creative architect of his narrative. It was time to embrace the unfolding path without reservation. Each brushstroke, every moment spent vulnerable in the realm of passion, had cultivated a profound transformation, leaving the polished expectation behind. His heart surged as he realized he had conquered himself, and that mastery was the greatest achievement of all. And now, it's your turn to take action. You need to subscribe now to this channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that inspire transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support truly makes a difference. Comment below with your reactions and theories about this ending. It's time to engage with the community, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Together, let us uplift those on their journeys towards self-discovery and growth.